Please welcome Lee Hunter.
Woo! Welcome. I'm Lee Hunter, chairman of the Hunter Conference, CEO of Hunter Hotel Advisors. Welcome to this pre-conference session, the next generation of hospitality leadership, also known as the Future C-Suite. I can safely tell you alumni from this group are now sitting in some level of C-Suite in their respective companies. So for those who are about to come up and grace this stage, big things are expected in the future of you, so no pressure, except for you, Colin. You do not get my job. So anyway, so thanks for being here in Atlanta. Thanks for being here early, since I guess officially we don't start till tomorrow morning. So thank you for being here now. So at this point in time, let's not listen to me. Let's listen to our panelists. Please welcome to the stage the Future C-Suite.
Hello? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Huynh. I'm a senior hospitality administration student at Georgia State University and this year's Hunter Conference intern. And I'm the moderator tonight for the Future C-Suite panel. And I'm so glad that everyone was able to make it tonight. And you guys are in for a treat with these panelists. And I got to, talk to them individually. And they are definitely the future in hospitality. So I'm going to go down the line and have everybody introduce themselves. Just tell us about your early career to now, and maybe kind of weave in at what point you kind of realized you had the potential to be a leader.
Yeah, my name is Colin Flannery. I'm Vice President at Hunter Advisors. Been with Hunter my whole career since I graduated in 2020. Fell in love with hospitality as a kid and always knew I wanted to work in this industry, and had family who grew up in this industry as well. It's, the second I kind of fell in love with Hunter was just really early in my career. Always knew I wanted to be a leader and work through people. I love the work, I love the day-to-day, but really what's the most fulfilling part is getting to see, hiring people and seeing how they grow throughout their careers and on our teams.
Awesome. Alex Shankeys, a vice president at Chimera Hospitality. Kind of similar to Colin, grew up with family in the industry. Really loved it, fell in love with it from an operations perspective. I'm a Hoosier, born in Indiana, and worked the front desk, F&B, housekeeping during my time during college, and then started out my career in the brokerage space at Hodges Ward Elliott. And then worked for a local owner-operator down here in Atlanta, and then just starting around a year ago, opened up startup with a family office with my friends and family, my brother and father. And I grew up with a father in the industry, and something he always said coming home from these conferences, he'd always come back and say, I met someone who was awesome. And it became a joke for like 5 times. Every time he came home from a conference, it was like he met someone really cool. And I took that kind of with a grain of salt being a kid, and then being in the industry the last 6-7 years, I mean, it's just opened my eyes. It's so true in terms of the people in this industry, and that's why I love it. It's a relationship industry. It's a small industry. It's niche, and everyone I run into on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, it's awesome. So, love it.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Emma Claire Spring. I'm a director of development at Marriott International, and actually did not grow up in the industry. My family wasn't in the industry. Got my start in operations, just working at the front desk, I think when I was 15 years old, at a Best Western in my hometown of Whitefish, Montana, and just really fell in love with the industry that way. Just the people-focused aspect of our industry, interacting with guests, and kind of always thought I would stay in operations, mostly because I wasn't super aware of this side of the industry, at least when I got started. And even when I was in school, I went to school for hospitality business management. It was, a lot more operations focused, but kind of how I pivoted over to this side a little bit more. I was a part of the She Has a Deal program back in 2021 when I was in college. That sort of exposed me to the real estate kind of investment ownership side of the business, which I really didn't know existed. So I'm very grateful for that. And through that program, I met the woman who later ended up hiring me at Marriott. So now I've been with the company for 3 years on the brand development side, a couple years on the full service team, and now I'm heading up our mid-scale brands kind of for the Northeast Mid-Atlantic region. So City Express and Studio Res is sort of my everyday. And I guess thinking back to when I knew that I would be a leader, I think within hospitality, it's such a people-oriented business, and so even those humble beginnings on property, working at the front desk, just interacting with guests, it's sort of the same thing in leadership. Is it's a love of people, and I think those translate really well. So I'd say that's kind of where I got my start.
Hi everyone, my name is Cameron Willis. I also did not start in the industry. I'm from a very small town called Waverly Hall, Georgia. I made it and started at Georgia State University, go Panthers, and Hunter is very special to me. I started here as a volunteer, and through networking, mentorship, and just a love of the industry, I've been able to start my career here, and it's very humble to say, and it means so much to come back here and later grace the stage. So thank you, Sarah and team, for having me. Post-graduation, I started at IHG, similar to Emma Claire here, and the development side, helping LLP, Luxury Lifestyle and Premium Brand Growth Development. And I recently started at MindClick, and where I work at the intersection of sustainability, hospitality, and data. We work very closely with hotel owners and brands to help them really understand the impact of their purchasing decisions. I'm more than happy to be here with you all, and I really look forward to this conversation.
All right, so.
Oh, sorry, and I also want to tell how I knew I would be a leader. I think just being in this space, you're able to surround yourself with other leaders who share like-minded thoughts and processes. So just your proximity to other leaders is extremely important. And I think if you're able to find mentorship in others that you admire in the industry and take just qualities that you would like to embody and then put the work and hard work behind it, you will find yourself on that leadership track. So thanks for letting me circle back.
Yeah, of course. So for all the students like myself in this room, I have this question for Emma Claire and Alex. What skills should developing leaders be prioritizing currently in this industry, would you say?
I would say number one, being an assertive learner. I think a lot of different groups have different types of trainings, different ways to get into the environment, but taking hold of your learning itself is very important. And then there's the, being detail-oriented is something I think, each one of us were probably told when we were little, you need to be detail-oriented, but being able to balance multiple things, being patient, asking questions. I think a lot of for the audience's sake, when you're 18 to 25, you're not going to know everything. Nothing's going to be expected of you, but learn assertively, learn fast, learn from your mistakes, and you'll be set if you can do those real simple things.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think curiosity is super, super important within this industry. Feels like everything is connected, even if it may not feel like it is in your current role, whatever you're doing. Understanding all the different facets of the industry, from operations to finance to branding, they're all interconnected. So as much as you can kind of educate yourself, even if it's beyond your day-to-day role, I think it's really important, and just kind of helps this industry kind of click together. I also think adaptability is huge right now. Of course, our world is rapidly changing with AI and everything that's going on, and so I don't even think it's something that's going to set you apart. I think it's sort of a baseline expectation to be able to sort of roll with the punches. And I think our generation actually has a unique advantage here in that we are newer to the industry. We're not necessarily so attached to the way that we've always done things. I think it's a little bit easier for us to digest and actually change. So I think that's a unique advantage that we have. And then I think, being early in your career, a lot of times I think of leadership as like managing others. And I'm like, okay, well, in my role today, I don't manage other people. So am I a leader? But I think leadership is more of a behavior. And I think it's all about lifting other people up and helping them succeed without expecting anything in return. So I think that's super important. Even if you don't directly manage others, like how can you help other people succeed, whether that's helping onboard and train someone that's new on your team, telling somebody else in your company who's interested about your role, how you got there. Really just think about how you can lift others up outside of yourself every day, and that'll translate really well to when you eventually are leading and managing others formally in a role.
I totally agree. And that's not something I even previously thought of. Like, you don't have to be currently in a leadership role. It's about the mindset that you carry on from that. And on your note earlier, Alex, about always showing that initiative to learn more and, admit when you're wrong as well. I have the next question for you and Colin. So in asset management, what platforms would you say you utilize most when referencing data lately? And how has access to data in general changed in even the past 5 years or 6 years since COVID?
Yeah. I could sit here and list, there's a bunch of softwares out there that all of us are very familiar with: CoStar, TREP, RCA. There's a lot of softwares out there that we can utilize. The big point that you made, though, is the data transparency and how far that's come along with only, I would say, honestly, the last 5 to 7 years. CoStar specifically, I don't want to use the word monopoly, but their access to data and which allows us to see moving trends on a daily basis is huge. So that's what I would say. It's and then you throw on AI on top of it, and within the last 5 to 7 years, it's just exploded. So staying close to trends, regardless of what side you're on the business on, whether you're working for one of the brands, ownership, development, brokerage, staying close to trends and utilizing these softwares that we have is definitely very important. Colin, you want to add on?
Yeah, there's, like you said, there's so many tools, and just the access to data has just not been the case, over the last 10 years. In the last 5 years, it's changed so much. So many tools for us as brokers, but also for us to advise you guys on a buy-side advisory basis of just every ownership record across the country is available for data at easy lookups through CoStar.
Yeah.
And it's all right in front of you. There's so many opportunities that if you can just get creative with the amount of data that's available, everyone on an institutional record has access to this data. So it's, really finding a competitive advantage on thinking about this, being able to source it differently than everyone else is.
It's definitely it's definitely increased competition amongst groups, at least from the ownership side, being able to see it real time, operators, et cetera.
It's the single most important thing someone can just really separate themselves is trying to find deals, especially you guys being buys, and trying to find deals that fit your preferences and finding owners and going direct, going through broker. There's just so many options out there to be creative and find deals outside of normal broker networks.
So with that competitive advantage, I feel like, now more than ever, it's you got to work twice as hard. And, with that ease of having more data, what keeps you, motivated to keep pursuing your work through those hard days with all that competition? You'd say, is there anything workplaces or even employees could do to reduce that stress? And I have this for you and Cameron, actually.
I think it's it's so individual in finding your place. Once you find your place and truly enjoying your day-to-day job and exactly where you fit in the industry, it's been really easy for me to be motivated on a day-to-day basis. I actually love what I do on a day-to-day. It makes it really easy to work hard, makes long days really easy, makes it easy to bounce back, and it's still a job and you have to find balance on some level, but and then you find people as you get to grow and hire and manage people who fit those same circumstances of people who care about what they do, like what they do, especially on the sell side, which is such just unique day-to-day of us just working on so many deals at once and being all over the place. Like Alex being, working on, you guys are underwriting 1 million deals at once, but once you lock in on something, you're diving to every single individual detail about one deal, whilst we're still underwriting hundreds of deals at once. So, knowing about what level of detail to dive into, where you need to ask questions, where you don't need to ask questions, where you let your intuition ride, takes a lot of experience and finding the right side of the industry of where your brain works.
What about you, Cameron?
I want to second his point. Finding your place in the industry really does make all the difference as far as enjoying your day-to-day work, on also being able to engage with your colleagues. Your environment and the people you interact with day-to-day make all the difference, but an underlying passion for the industry, for people, for guest experience, or whatever sector that you're in, a real passion for your work is required. But it's also a privilege to say that we live in a generation where we can enjoy our work, because I believe previous to just now, right, people would put up with jobs that they weren't really passionate about or even able to connect with a sector that they were passionate about. So it is a privilege to say that we work in an industry where guests first, but also we enjoy our colleagues, we enjoy just getting together. Hospitality is very special in that way. And can you please repeat the second part of your question?
Yeah, what could workplaces or even employees do themselves to help reduce stress in this workplace environment?
Outside of your day-to-day work, having a passion in your own personal life really does make life enjoyable. So yeah, finding your hobbies, your interests, and taking good care of your mental health and your physical health as well is top of line. You can't show up to a place and be a contributor if you're not taking care of yourself day to day. So that is essential as well.
Well, for many, the solution for stress these days is to work from home or start working hybrid, all that. And I know you and Emma Claire have experience with that for most of your career actually at this point. So how do you think that has impacted your career or day-to-day work life? And how do you think it's going to continue to affect the landscape of this industry moving forward?
No, you can go ahead. Okay, so yeah, I started my career in a hybrid role, and it does make all the difference. I think being in person, you're able to just get those moments versus sending an email and a ping. You're actually there to be the receiving end of the person who needs research, who needs a CoStar report, and then you can be presented the opportunity to analyze it. What does this really mean? What can we get from this data? So being in person allows an opportunity to branch into more things, and you're able to connect really closely with your colleagues if you're interacting with them day to day. But there is an additional flexibility to being fully remote, and we're living in a global market now, so you're able to call people all over the world and ping them just at here, right? So there's a lot of flexibility within that, but then you have more time to balance your personal life as well versus spending 2 hours in traffic going to Dunwoody. I can now take those 2 hours and walk the Beltline. So it's just those small things that really make all the difference. But I think being in person early in your career is very important if you have that opportunity and it works out for you. But there are additional, flexibilities from having a remote role.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. I think we both kind of have a unique perspective because we graduated post-COVID, so we never really knew what it was like to work in an office 5 days a week. I think it's pretty, maybe not rare, but I feel like there are more companies than not that are remote or hybrid than fully 5 days a week in person. So I never really knew that side of it. And I think, graduating in 2021, being hybrid or remote was sort of the norm, and sort of became the first choice for most people because it is a lot easier. It's a lot more comfortable. You sort of optimize for that comfort. Again, less commute going in, less time getting ready, just a little bit more flexibility in your day, which those are all incredible things. But I will say, I do think there is a bit of a trade-off of that sort of comfort, and the long-term value that you get from being in person and learning from people who have been doing your job or jobs adjacent to yours for a lot longer than you have. So I think, I sort of graduated at a time where everyone was sort of remote, but if I were to go back and do it again, I think I would have really prioritized having my first job be maybe not fully in person. That would be a lot, but I could do it. But at least hybrid. And I think one thing I hear often about hybrid is, you're required to go in 1 or 2 days a week, but everyone's still on Teams calls. Everyone's kind of taking calls from the little side rooms because not everyone is there. So it sort of feels like you're getting ready, commuting, going in to do the same work and have the same day that you would have at home. So I think for the hybrid model to really work and actually make sense, companies have to be very intentional around how that's designed. Is everyone coming in on the same day? Are we meeting in person? How are we actually going to make the most of this time together versus everyone just having the same day that they would remotely at home in the office? I think that's where there's a disconnect between employers and employees is why am I doing this? What's the value in this? But I think as time goes on and we sort of move a little bit further away from remote, a little bit more of RTO coming into the mix, I think we'll start to see that improve, and definitely something that I'd like to see improve in the workspace. And I think we just get people to come back in and actually feel that sense of connection to where they're working.
And from a student perspective, that sounds like just a lot of factors to consider, a big decision to make, and it's very common these days to have a mentor now, and a mentor could help you make those decisions. So I have this for you, Emma Claire and Colin. So how can students approach mentorship now, and is there an edge we can utilize nowadays when forming relationships?
The advice I always give students, it's really, really simple, but I think a lot of people actually struggle with it, is just finding an industry you're even remotely interested in, finding a subsection of an industry you're remotely interested in, just talking to people, having conversations with people and hearing what their day-to-days look like. Hearing what's it like to work 5 days in the office a week? What's it like to be hybrid and be 3 and 2? And then, by hearing people's lived experiences on what they actually feel and how that affects their lives, you just learn so much really quickly. Just talking to people and having conversations. And that's how I ended up settling on brokerage. Talking to people on every side of the industry and realizing that brokerage is where I wanted to spend my time, just because you learn so much from every side of the industry, especially early in your career. I can't recommend enough of just reaching out to people through LinkedIn, reaching out to people through your school network. It makes so much of a difference of being educated when it comes to finding internships and jobs.
Absolutely would agree with that. I remember being in college and our career centers being like, you need to find a mentor. You got to find that one person who's going to be your perfect mentor. And I think there's so much pressure on that to find someone who's in the exact field and position that you want to be in, or has the right kind of communication style for you. And I think today more than ever, I sort of think of it as my network of mini mentors. It's like a web of mentors. And I think compared to the generations above us, we are so connected. We have such an opportunity with LinkedIn and the internet to literally have access to these people throughout all different types of industries, all different types of locations. If you think about even my parents' generation, they didn't have the internet to go and do that. They were sort of just their options were a lot more limited in who they could connect with, and even the ways that they're able to connect with them. And so the fact that you can go on LinkedIn, find 10 people that have a career path that you're somewhat interested in and reach out, I think is, very powerful. I will say, I think people are starting to learn that. And so I find myself getting a lot of outreach and messages, which is great. And I try to meet with every single person. But I think the people that you're connecting with really appreciate when you're super intentional and prepared for your conversation. So like Colin said, asking about their day-to-day, ask them about what's your least favorite part of your job. Ask the hard questions that you actually want to know the answer to. And like we were saying earlier too, when you're this young, you're not gonna actually know what a lot of these jobs entail. So use AI and type in that job role and say, I'm gonna do an informational interview with this person. What are the types of questions that I should ask to most fully understand this role by the time I'm done with this conversation? But I think just taking advantage of how connected we are today and what that gives us access to. So informational interviews are huge, especially while you're still a student. It's a little bit harder to do when you're a career professional. You have your student card, use that. It's very valuable.
And just casting your net wide. If you cast your net wide early, sets such a good base for you for your career just going forward. The people you really build relationships with are the people you grew up with in the industry, and just hearing about your day-to-day and complaining about your day-to-day and talking about the things you love. Setting that net wide as a student is so much easier than once you get out into the world. It's a huge, huge, huge advantage that a lot of people, I think, don't utilize.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one other thing, I know you probably hear this from everyone in the industry, but it really is about who you know. And I think we all hear about the job market today. It's difficult. So applying for a job on Indeed and just hoping that they select you for an interview, that's becoming harder and harder. It really is about relationships. And if you know someone at a company, even if it was just someone based on a conversation you had 2 years ago, and you're connected with them on LinkedIn, maybe you occasionally reach out, that's a resource for you to find an opportunity. And I think in today's environment, that's going to be really important. So set yourself apart by actually dedicating some time every week to do that. It was one of the most valuable things for me, and still is, just learning from others, but those connections that really go a long way.
We're so lucky today to have I fell in love with the firm that I started at and have stayed there. But the odds is that you're going to learn a lot in your first 2 to 3 years, and then find a better spot that kind of fits exactly what you're looking for, because you're just so much more informed. Like, not thinking about life as like a 5-year plan or your career, and just thinking about it as every 6 months, reevaluating every 6 months. Like, Cameron and Alex have bounced between different parts of the industry, trying to find exactly what works for them. And you guys seem to get a lot closer. You know, that's the path of most people. So having that wide net and just thinking about it and being very intentional about outreach, like you said, is huge. It's night and day.
And I want to add in a point, and people like to see where their investment is going. If they're investing their time and their resource into you, follow up, say, hey, I participated in this, I made honor roll, I, took a meeting with someone that was difficult, but I did the prep work, right? Like, people are very kind in our industry, but as young professionals, they like to see that you're curious and that you're prepared to learn the difficult part, right? Because none of us know anything. We're day-to-day learning and evolving as young professionals and as people ourselves, but people want to pour into others who have the time, the resources, or even the connection. So follow up. Just don't reach out when you need something because it comes across as that, right? Like, people know when you're being intentional about something or when you're being superficial or when you're in need. It just happens that way. So reaching out intentionally and genuinely and updating them, hey, I've done this, thank you so much for your time. Like, it really does make all the difference in managing and keeping those relationships. And as I said, I came here as a student before I even had a career, and these people sitting in the audience, they have known me, they have seen me evolve, and it's just so kind. And I call them, I say, hey, I'm not even in a pinch, right? What would you do in this scenario? And they're kind enough to say, I would say this is how you should present yourself. And when I started off, I wasn't the most business professional, right? And my mentor pulled me to the side. Hey, spend a couple dollars, just invest in some good clothing, right? Because you need to learn how to present yourself in different elements. So just having someone who's not critiquing you, but offering you feedback that will make all the difference when you're presenting yourself in spaces is extremely necessary. And just don't nag that person for one specific thing, right? You have to have a micro network, as she said, because different things for different people, right? So, hey, I need to push through this deal. Like, what would you think? Or, hey, like, I'm really in a pinch right now. How would you communicate this? Or, I didn't really like that feedback. How would you, take this on next time? So just having people that you can chat with or confide in will make all the difference in your young career, because we're not born knowing everything, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be unconventional, but that's just life itself. There's no booklet, there's no manual. So, having that community that has invested in you and you've invested in to really connect with during difficult times, during happy times, during challenging times, does really make all the difference.
And the one final thing I'll say is, it's obviously a relationship-driven industry, but one thing that I think that sets us apart is we all want to see each other succeed. Whether you're on the brokerage side, whether you're on the brand side, whether you're on the ownership side, there's so many parts that make a real estate transaction come to life. We all want to see each other succeed. So I just can't reemphasize enough. When you're young and you get the opportunity to reach out to folks, do it. Real literally, it's not going to be a negative. It will be a positive. And then there's nuggets. You may call someone and you're thinking about talking about one thing, and then there may be a side thing that comes off of it that's just valuable. The number of nuggets that you get from just calling people is phenomenal.
And with the ease of connection these days and just seeing how massive this conference is with the different industries that are part of it, it can seem overwhelming how many job offers there can be if we utilize them. And I have this question for Alex and Cameron. Like, are there aspects we could consider when being decisive about job offers, or when deciding when we're ready to move on to a different position?
I think you have to be passionate about what you do. I think it starts with passion. You have to love the hospitality real estate industry. And then second, I call it a macro and then micro approach. You have to start with your long-term goals. And if what you're doing on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis doesn't add up to your long-term goals, then it's time to reconsider. The counter to that, which I think is equally important for our generation, is I think, in the age of social media, constant gratification, constant clicking, be patient. Give things some time. Give things some time. I saw a lot of people early on in my career on the brokerage space. It's like, they got emotion. I would call it they emotionally reacted over something that happened over a week or a month or a period of 6 months, when it got tough. And then they left and they went to another shop and experienced the same thing, thinking the grass is always going to be greener on the other side. So have some patience and begin with the end in mind. if what you're doing on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis is adding up to your long-term goals, it's success.
And yeah, I'll second that. Take a beat, right? So you might get an email that you read the undertone to be sassy or whatnot. Don't flip off at the mouth and send an email back, right? Take a beat. That could be 24 hours. That could just be a breath outside. But learning to put ego behind you is something that you could really learn early in your career. And I think it's really important evaluating offers and positions, right? What will my exposure level be in this position? Not the title. What will I be able to get my hands on? Who can I meet? What would this lead to in the long-term scale of things versus a title, or even no one's coming out making $100,000 unless they're, working JP Morgan in New York. Good for them, right? But in our industry, it's not that, right? So, really being able to be patient and, invested in the growth of your career and showing up day to day and saying, I'm putting in the effort, I'm reaching out, I'm learning the work, I'm evolving as a young person in life as well, and being kind to yourself during the process really does make all the difference. So
I totally agree. And it's a lot to, unpack with that, especially with, the whole landscape of this industry. It's very people-oriented. So obviously there can be emotions involved in that as well. But if you guys were to enter in your college self again and enter in the hospitality industry again, is there like a mindset, but like not exactly a skill, you would say is essential to succeed, and anything you would do over?
God. I would say number one is, I said it before, is just be an assertive learner. Don't be reactive to maybe the processes they have in place. Be assertive in your learning, ask questions, and don't be afraid to fail. Everyone in this room is going to fail. I don't care where you went to school, if you went to IU, if you went to Tennessee, you went to Cornell, you're going to fail. Nothing beats reps. So be an assertive learner, be a constant learner. I'm a true believer in the day you think you have it all figured out is the day you're dead. And yeah, that's what I would leave you guys with. Like, don't be afraid to fail. Nothing beats reps in terms of getting involved in what your company's doing and taking ownership of it, taking pride of it, and stamping your name on it and saying, hey, I put this work together. And yeah, don't be afraid to fail and work your ass off.
Yeah, the young people in our industry where I feel like the young people who I get really excited about in the industry are people who are really confident in what they do know and also very confident in what they don't know. Don't try to act like you're a CEO on day one. We work in an industry that's really tight and everyone knows each other, and a lot of people have been doing this their entire lives. It's really important to just listen.
There's nothing wrong with being a good listener.
No, absolutely. Like, that's how I learned at Hunter, was just absorbing through people around me who were way better at what I did, and just absorbing and learning and getting better every single time.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, I think being adaptable is not really an option right now. It's a kind of a requirement. But I think as young people, we sort of tend to come into companies and our new roles knowing that we're the lowest on the totem pole, and sometimes it feels a little bit scary to speak up and share your perspective. But I think now more than ever, just given the world that we live in, given AI and everything that's kind of changing the landscape of what we do, I think our perspectives are actually really valuable. Obviously, you say things respectfully, you ask questions to understand why or why not. But I think that is really important, and something that really just embodies leadership. Don't be afraid to kind of share your perspective. I know in my day-to-day role, there are plenty of things where I have shared, like, why do we still do it this way? Like, is there an opportunity to change that? Like, I know we've always done it this one way, but what if we tried this? And more often than not, I think people are pretty receptive to that. So I think that's a way that you can actually feel like you are influencing change within whatever role you decide to take on. But just because you're young, just because you're new, doesn't mean that your perspective doesn't matter. So stay curious, stay adaptable, and also don't be afraid to contribute your ideas, because a lot of times they might be needed.
And then finding a culture where your contributions are really valued, or where you even feel comfortable speaking up, is extremely important early in your career, but just in your career in general, while staying adaptable, staying positive about situations can change things more than what you really think. So the positive mindset sounds simple, but it will actually deliver you out of situations you didn't even see yourself being in. Just the mindset to say, I can overcome, I can be resilient, I can learn from this situation, and say, what did I learn, not what did I lose, is really important going in. So yeah, stay adaptable, stay excited about what you're learning, staying hungry to contribute, but also putting your ego on the back, because we're coming up in an industry where people have worked their butt off, like in operations in all aspects, and you cannot go in saying, I know. I'm here to learn, I'm here to see, I'm here to contribute, I'm here to take up space because I'm respected, but also I can respect others in a space, and learning how to communicate for yourself, but also advocate for others. So yeah, having integrity in your work and in your day-to-day is important. And when it comes to time when you need to transition to a new role, when you need to call a friend, your reputation is on the line, because what are they connecting you with, right? Are they connecting you with growth? Are they connecting you as a strong leader? Are they identifying you someone who is a disruptor in a positive way, or are they aligning you with negative characteristics, right? So really taking time to invest in your reputation, contribute to it, and really standing firm in your contributions and where you're at learning, and being honest with what I can learn and what I'm willing to learn, right? So this is my strong suit, this is my opportunity area. Being able to, confide in your peers on your team about that actually makes a stronger team versus you thinking that you need to know everything, because you don't need to be a subject matter expert. You need to be someone that's easy to work with. And you're gonna have your strengths, and being able to identify that in a space and in a culture where that's really promoted, you will be able to rise in whatever aspect you want to, and you're gonna also be able to uplift your peers because you've been honest, right? And you act with integrity, and you're excited to be there. So I'm excited for all of you as your futures are evolving. This is a great industry. You're here in the right place. Shake a lot of hands, get a lot of business cards, and follow up with these people because they want to invest in the next generation. So thank you so much for having us, and I know Heather has a few more questions.
Yes, but we do have some extra time, and before I even open up to more of my questions, is there anybody in the audience that wanted to ask anything? Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taiwo Tinubu, current GSU student for the Graduate Certificate Hospitality Business Program. I'm a former nurse, but a current Marriott worker. And I guess for Emma, as a former nurse, I wanted to ask how Marriott professionals might look at cross-talent among the industry.
Cross-talent as in people coming from other industries
Yes,
into
other
Marriott?
fields.
Yeah, definitely. I don't really work on the operations side anymore today. I'm kind of more on the franchise development side, so that's not my day-to-day. But I think the thing about hospitality is there's so many people that would be like a really great fit for it. You being a nurse, someone who cares for patients, like that is the ultimate deliverance of hospitality. So I think, yeah, seeking talent from those types of roles where people are caring for others are natural fits for incredible hospitality leaders in the future. I think, as an industry, we need to continue to do work to attract young people to this industry. I think operations, used to sort of be the norm, but again, now with remote work, who wants to go work in a hotel 5 days a week where you're maybe working weekends and holidays? It's like a little bit harder to market that lifestyle now when everyone's sort of trying to optimize for ease. So I think we need to, as an industry, make sure that we're taking strides to attract that right type of talent and also retain them. And I think a big part of that is professional development and leadership development, not just saying, hey, you are working in this role, whatever you are, a front desk associate, a banquet manager, whatever. Like, how do we develop you in your 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan? I think that's how we can really, get people to come from other industries that would be such a great fit for our industry. And like, we want people like nurses, but like how do we make it worth their while, and how do we show that there's an actual future? Like, what does that career progression look like? I think that's an important part of the story, because if you're just working on property every single day and you don't really have a kind of an end game in mind, like you were saying, Alex, like what do you want to do long term? Is it contributing to that plan? I think that's, incredibly important. So I don't know like what our exact approach is to that. That's not my area of expertise. But I do know that, we want to continue to not only attract but retain talent. And good talent is increasingly important today for owners, for the brands, for everyone. That's kind of like the lifeblood of our industry.
It's like such a diverse asset class in real estate. It's so different from multifamily, office, and industrial, where I just feel like whether it's operational or if it's above property, whether you're on the deal side or on the franchise side, any part of the equation, there's spots for a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different backgrounds. Even just like isolate operations on its own, there's so many spots you can find within, especially full service properties, that you work your way through your career through roles that you work this role and find out what you like about this role, what you didn't like about this role, and you continue to curate your career into the spot you want to be. You keep learning from your experience. I think all of us, came in and just continue to learn and continue to kind of find that exact niche that we want to sit in, especially on the deal side of what kind of stuff do we want to work on? Do I want to work on specifically select service? What am I looking at on the full service side? Geography is all over the place, deal size. Who do I want to work with? Am I buying from developers? Am I buying from brokers? How am I getting creative on buying and selling properties? There's just so much opportunity for people to really find where you fit in. And kind of going back to the start, it's just talking to a lot of people. The more people you talk to, the better understanding you have of what's out there, what opportunities are out there, what you don't want to do, what you do want to do.
And I want to say your experience is valuable, period, right? Finding those transferable skills and being able to market yourself to that next opportunity is what really matters most, right? So I encourage you to have a network in, but then also be able to, of course, stand on your own through your skills and through your connections, and be able to market yourself to say, hey, right, I come from a hotel background, but I'm currently working for a sustainability company, right? They value my knowledge on the hotel and owner side, but I have a lot to learn on the data, supplier, and sustainability side, right? But I'm excited to learn, but here are my skills going forward, right? Because you're not gonna know everything, and they can teach you on the job, but they can't teach you to have a positive attitude, to have integrity in your work, and to be a stand-up contributor, right? Those are things that you have to embody on your own and transfer those skills over and be excited about what you can learn in that new possibility. So thank you for your work as a nurse as well.
Absolutely. And also to add to that, I just want to say, I think today more than ever, we have like the most resources out there to educate yourself on whatever you want to do. So if it's going into development, like you can do the eCornell certificate course, learn about that. You could do She Has a Deal. Like there's so many resources to get people in the industry that maybe are starting from a completely different background. And also the thing about hospitality, like most people in this industry, their career path really isn't linear. Like if you think about people in hospitality of all
100%.
industries, like they have had such varied backgrounds. Some people started in operations, some people started in investment banking, like it totally just depends. Some people started in nursing, and then maybe you'll be up here soon. So I think of all industries, it's sort of like a very normal thing. But like Cameron said, like those soft skills that you can't really teach are what's important. Being hardworking, being honest, having a lot of passion for what you do. It's not rocket science. Like we can kind of teach you everything else, or you can sort of self-educate to get yourself to the place you need to be. But it's a wonderful industry to be in, and it's a ton of fun. I think we've need to harp on that a little bit more. It's a really, really fun industry to be in. Yeah, so thank you for your question. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful.
Did we have any more questions for now? Yes.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm a junior student here, just trying to learn a little bit about the industry, but would love to ask for your all thoughts, especially as you're rising through the ranks in your careers, how you think about if you want to carve out some specific niche for yourself versus trying to be a generalist in all sorts of different things. And what do you think is the best as far as the value add for your respective firms and your career advancement also? Thanks.
I think I can speak as that as someone. I mean, I started out my career in operations and then interned at Marriott and then was on the brokerage side, and now I work for a local owner operator. I think there's truth. There's a saying about, being a jack of all trades but a master of none. So I think it goes back to that point about finding what you're passionate about. For me, it was when I was on the brokerage side, do I see myself doing this long term? Do I see myself becoming a managing director? I know Colin didn't want to be an analyst for the rest of his life, but what's your end goal? It's going back to my point about macro and then micro. If your long-term goal is real estate development, right? Learn it inside and out. And then getting to your question on how do you balance having multiple things? Before you switch, I would say before you switch, exactly that. Learn that side of the business inside and out. Exactly what I said. I mean, you don't want to be a jack of all trades, but a master of none. That's how I would answer that.
I think about all the time, like conversations we had when you were still working on the sell side of, you were working on a very specific subset of deals, like full service deals in the Northeast. And like working at Hunter, I get such a broad range of experience on underwriting for deals all over the country, everywhere from $5 million deal size up to $200 million deal size and large portfolios. Like I value that experience so much. There's not that many places where you truly get to just cast your net wide and just get a ton of experience, and then you get to narrow it down later if you really need to. There's so much value in being able to hop into a conversation with anyone and have something you can bring to the table.
Absolutely. To add to that, I think using your 20s as sort of a time to figure out what you like and don't like is totally okay. I don't think you have to know what you're going to kind of focus on and like that's going to be your niche going forward right away. Like I would be lying if I said, I'm for sure going to do this for the rest of my career. There's no part of me that wants to explore any other side of the industry. I think, like Alex said, learning everything there is to learn within whatever you're doing at that point will serve you so well in the long run. If you can sort of like collect these experiences and pieces of knowledge from different parts of the industry, it just makes you so much more well-rounded. But overall, I don't think put too much pressure on yourself to figure out what that sort of like, or what the specialization you're gonna have is in your 20s. If you find that, great, but if not, it's okay. That's sort of what this period of our career is about, learning what we like and don't like. And then eventually, once you're a little bit more senior in your career, you can sort of specialize on something. But just give yourself a little grace and a little bit of time to learn from those experiences.
And you'll learn as you go. Like when I was in brokerage and once I had the realization that, hey, I don't want to do this long term, I didn't leave immediately because I still knew I had things to learn in brokerage. And then once I got to that point, and that experience that I had in the brokerage space translated very well to the ownership operator side. And then once I learned the ownership operator side, it's all aggregated knowledge, especially when you're in your 20s. That's what's valuable. It's aggregating your knowledge base so when you are 30, when you are 40, you can make those decisions confidently.
Definitely, and I tried out a little bit of everything. So I spent time on property, I was in F&B, I did corporate travel, I did development consulting, and then I landed IHG, right? So I was able to say, I do like or I don't like. Sometimes it's hard to say, I know I like this, and it's just as important to say, I know I do not like this, as much as saying, I know I like this for a fact, right? It still stands for something, and being able to align your personality with skills that will be earning and able to contribute to a team. And I will say an analyst is always valuable. It never hurts to have a friend that's an analyst. It never hurts to learn those financial skills. But being on the sales side of things, I enjoy being able to really interact with owners and have that sales capacity or sales side, or just being able to do the market research. I enjoy the research side of it, the sales side of it, but maybe not the finance and the analyst side of it, right? But now me and Colin are friends, so it works out like that, right? So learning who you are and what you think your skill potential can be and being open to knowing new things is more important than saying, I'm a subject matter expert at 23. Trying different things at this stage is very important, and that's exactly what you should be doing. Spending time in the summers doing internships if you have that privilege or you have that capacity or capability, right? Like, they're asking for, years of experience on entry-level roles, right? And, sometimes you should still apply even if you don't meet every requirement on the job app, but experience really does teach things more than what your school can. The degree is necessary and it is important, but that experience is even more important.
And just being open to change too. Like your skill set might change, what you want might change as you develop in the industry. I started at Hunter as truly like a numbers first guy, and as I've evolved and gotten more senior and learned more about the industry and just met more people in the industry, I've become more interested in being on the sell side, and the interpersonal stuff's way more fulfilling to me than the numbers stuff now, or call it 50-50. You just learn so much as you keep going about what you do like and what you don't like, and really more about what you don't like. Yeah. And then you kind of narrow it down of what place is perfect for you, and also recognizing the grass is not always greener on the other side, of making sure you're learning and taking advantage of every opportunity in front of you. Being on the brokerage side or being on a side that's very detailed analysis like appraisals, you learn so much in one place. So like they're just great places to start your career. Can't recommend enough for starting in appraisals or starting in brokerage. Just set great foundations for you working with owners, you're working with management companies, you're working with developers, you're working with franchises. There's just so many opportunities in front of you to just listen and learn. And there's those opportunities everywhere, just because there's senior people who have been working in hotels forever. It's kind of the great part about our industry is it's so specialized that people have been doing it forever. There's not that many people coming from other asset classes into hotels because hotels are so difficult to make it work.
Is there anyone else for now?
Hello, I'm May, currently volunteering for the Hunter Conference from UF. And I guess my question is, this is my first business conference as well as many other student volunteers. And I guess I just want a specific piece of advice from all of you on like how should I make the most of my opportunity here at the Hunter Conference?
I'd say if you're not a very social or bubbly person, just make a goal to connect with one person genuinely a day, right? You don't need to knock it out of the ballpark and get 25 business cards and follow up with 0 people, right? It's quality over quantity, and I think there are gonna be a lot of people here tomorrow, right? So it's gonna be slightly overwhelming, but say I'm in this space for a reason and have a goal, right? I'd like to connect with 3 business professionals. I'd like to get in front of a brand. I'd like to get in front of a marketing agency. I'd like to get in front of an architect or design firm, right? So making a goal of, exploring a few different sectors, but then also having a genuine goal of connecting with specific professionals and going forward and saying, hey, like you're really someone I admire. This has been my college experience thus far. Could I have a few moments of your time to discuss, a few things, right? And ask them about their career, ask them about their trajectory, ask them about what excites them about the industry. And it's all about networking here. It is really, truly the connections that you make. And I think networking can sometimes get a bad rep, but it's really building genuine connections and not having a transactional mindset from it, right? Just because you meet someone doesn't mean they're gonna give you a job or know someone that can give you a job, right? So just connecting with them in a genuine space and saying, I really admire your work or your contributions in the industry thus far. I'd love to stay connected. Here's my business card, here's my email, here's my LinkedIn. Like, how can we stay in touch? They're gonna get a lot of business cards too, but you're gonna email them. You're gonna say, hey, it was so lovely meeting you. One distinctor, one differentiator. I'm a student at UF, right? I'd love to follow up with you in a month whenever your schedule is available. Can I get on your calendar? And then when you get on their calendar, you're gonna have a set of questions. You're gonna have an itinerary and you're gonna respect their time, and they're gonna wanna probably stay connected with you, right? So I'm excited for all of you, but I encourage you to have a goal and stick to it. And don't try to land 25 business cards. Just make 5 connections or 2 or 1, right? Whatever is you're able to with your capacity.
Absolutely. I would also say, having worked some conferences when I was a student, connect with the other students, because these are going to be your peers growing up in the industry that are interested in sort of the same niche that you are. Like we were saying, it's a small industry. It's a big industry, but it's a big, small industry. And you'll kind of see the same faces around. Like there are people that I volunteered with as a student at Alice that are now very close connections of mine in the industry. So by saying that, I don't mean only stick to students, because that's like more of your comfort zone. Obviously, you guys are all in the same position being here, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. All of these professionals knowing each other, everyone hugging, like old friends. Like, how do you sort of make your way into that conversation. Definitely push yourself outside of your comfort zone a little bit and like try to connect with those professionals, but also understand the value of connecting with your peers because you guys will be that next generation. And I think you'll find that like you're gonna have friendships that last a really long time because you met at the Hunter Conference when you were in college, and then 10 years later, you're gonna be still working in the same industry. So I'd say that's really important too.
Yeah, something you could do. Hunter dummy proofs it for you. They give you the attendee list. So I would download the attendee list. I would go down the list regarding, specifically what you're interested in. Is it marketing? Is it development? Google these groups, put in ChatGPT, tell me some recent news about these guys, and then go up to them and shake their hand and say, hey, I'm a student here. Give them the 2-minute, elevator pitch on yourself. I'm looking to learn, be humble. You got 5 minutes to chat over coffee. I've done that probably 20 plus times. Not once have I ever gotten I got no time for you. It may be delayed, they may have other things to work on, but it's so true about that. We all want to see each other succeed. We're all, especially the senior level folks, are all very open to speaking with people like you. And I think if you do it, you'll find that out.
Yeah. And the senior level people are great to hear perspective from, but what's most applicable to you today is going to be finding the young professionals at our conference. Find the other analyst and associate level people and hear about their day-to-day. What was their recruitment like when they were going through the industry and trying to find a job? How did they get creative in their job search? How did they find where they work now? Those conversations are so relevant to you today. And just given how much the job market changes, especially for students right now, and knowing how tough it is, every single student across the country is clicking apply to the Procter & Gamble, or where there's 30,000, 70,000 applicants. You really have to get creative, and you're never going to find the actual role that's going to make you fulfilled or somewhere you can grow in that way. It's just having conversations with other young professionals. Those are going to be the people who probably actually hire you. That's the most probably relevant to you today.
And I want to add in one more point. So just like they're reference checking you to see if you're a good applicant, you should be reference checking them to say, is this a good culture fit for me and my contributions, right? So when you're calling and doing these coffee chats, ask other people how they're enjoying their culture at their company. What does that really look like? And know yourself enough to say, do you think I could actually be a good fit for this space? Because it really does make all the difference to your day-to-day as far as what kind of culture leadership is driving in that space.
It's funny because I feel like, we kind of covered like a broad range of spectrums. I mean, Claire's saying talk to students, you're saying talk to senior people, I'm saying talk to analysts and associates. The actual answer is all of the above. You should be talking to everyone. Yeah. Literally talk to everyone. You will learn so much about people's different perspectives from different generations and different spots they are in the industry and how they grew and how things are different from when I started during COVID to how things are starting now. There's so much you can learn by just talking to different people from different spots and different levels of seniority.
I think I saw one question over there. Wanted to have enough time for it.
Good afternoon. My name is Burkita Bradford, North Carolina Central University, and you have given some wonderful nuggets, but my question to you, so I am a professor, what is it that you wish you had gotten as a student that you can impart with the students that are here today, like be it an internship or specific class or something like that? And anyone can answer it. Thank you.
Do rapid fires. So I definitely say maybe take a more challenging coursework, because sometimes programs can be more operations or focused on other things, but learning the finances, learning how the numbers really flow does make all the difference in interviewing in spaces. And so also the internships do matter. I know we're running down on time, so I'll pass it.
I was going to say the same thing. My hospitality program was very operations focused. I didn't have any real estate classes, anything about like the hotel industry. I learned that all outside of school. So I think even having just like one principles of hotel real estate, fundamentals of hotel real estate, even if you're not going into that, it's important. Even if you're a GM, like what is the objective of this asset, right? And then second is maximize your internships. Like that is kind of a 10-week opportunity for you to try on a hat that you may hate, but at least you're not committed and that's not your full-time job, right? It's a trial period. So all 3 summers, if you can, try to have an internship in different parts of the business. That's like your mini test trial.
Yeah, I would just honestly second what Claire said. I mean, I went to Indiana, so they didn't have a hospitality-focused program specifically. I was a finance major, but it's really just about developing relationships. I mean, Colin said it, we've said, I mean, it's a complex asset class relative to other real estate, but we're not curing cancer. It's not rocket science. The differentiator is how well you can connect with people, how well, the relationships you have. So that's what I would take advantage of, especially during your internships. It's meeting people, it's being relationship oriented, and it's getting your name out there.
Yeah, it's not rocket science at all. Same thing, same background. There's no real hospitality program at Tennessee, but from a coursework perspective, just being able to have people come out of college where they have a general idea of what metrics drive deals if they want to work on the deal side. It's just you're so far above every hospitality program in the country outside of Cornell. If you can walk up to me and describe to me, or at least ask educated questions, you're already above everyone. Rather than just asking specific questions. Like you said, Googling what did a company do recently? I saw you close this deal. Tell me about the deal. What drove you to work on this? Makes it really easy for us to have detailed conversations and for you to learn really quickly about how we think about things.
Stand out.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that note, we are finished with the Future C-Suite panel. Thank you guys so much for attending.
Should we take a picture?